Welcome back, everybody, to the XBA. We got the off-season video here for you guys today. And, hey, if you haven't checked out the finals matchup between the Monsters and the Paladins, please do so. It was a fun series, man. It was a fun series. Monsters win, and they go down in history as the Year 3 champs.
All right, yeah, let's get this underway. We're talking off-season trades, free agency, big announcements for XBA2, rule changes. We're covering all that stuff. You guys have already seen our draft lottery unveiling, so let's do the rest of the housekeeping before we get into the XBA draft coming soon. All right, guys, let's check out the retiring players. Zach Randolph is finally hanging it up. 40 years young. Pretty wild. These guys have already been technically retired. LeBron James. I don't feel like LeBron is going to retire at age 37.
I don't either.
There's no way.
No, in today's day and age, in modern medicine, and of course, what Tom Brady does.
He's got to break the all-time points record. He's trying to play with his kid. He's not retiring at 37. He's not going to leave the fly guys hanging. We override this decision. Hopefully, they never make it again. So all these guys, if they are going to stay, they have a counterpart file in XBA2. So if they ever do get called up, or if they ever do end up playing for the big club, they will be transferred from our XBA2 file to the XBA proper file. So just ignore all of this. Some of these guys maybe are retiring, like Isaiah Cousins. Okay, these guys, you know, Salah Bajiri. Okay, no future.
36 years old and a 69 overall, and you know, only 2 badges. Yeah, he's probably done.
So yeah, a lot of these guys are, but some of the guys will still be in XBA2 next year. Just one rule change to talk about as well. We are going to be moving the shot clock back to 24 seconds. I thought it was an interesting experiment for years 2 and 3. We had a 20-second shot clock. However, I feel like when we simulate these games, the rebound totals are always insane, and when we do the simcast, the possessions are just too high for our time quarter length. So it'll be a lot easier for us to get games done for you guys when we have a 24-second shot clock. So the scoring's probably going to be down a little bit in the XBA next year, more similar to how it was in year number 1. More 80s, high 70s, low 90s.
Our last league realignment, we actually moved, I believe, El Paso. We moved
Honolulu entered the Pacific,
yes,
which bumped El Paso to the southwest.
Yeah, so we had a little switch there, but there's nothing really that stands out that needs to be done here.
However, we do have an interesting announcement for our relocation. You guys remember that every 2 years we introduce a new team, correct? This is going to be a little bit different.
What?
We are going to be unveiling 2 new teams. 2 new teams that will be entering the XBA.
What?
Now, this will throw a little bit of a wrinkle. So you guys see on the screen how this is going to work. One team will be your typical relocation, the way that we did it with Honolulu. The second team will be involved with a contraction expansion.
XBA2?
Yes. One of our XBA2 teams that are in some of the larger markets. So we'll come up with those markets later, but you guys know who they are. Basically not the Alabamas or the Fort Waynes of the world, but more Portland, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, that type of thing, Salt Lake. Those teams you guys will choose. The most popular one will be called up to the XBA. However, the team that they are replacing will be Thanos snapped. They will be Thanos snapped. All of the players will be released to free agency.
Wow.
Well, it'll be a full-on expansion draft.
Hey, holy crap.
Yes, this is fun. You know, this is fun being in control of the league, because the commissioner, you and me, this is you. You're the commissioner, but I kind of whisper in your ear, give you ideas.
Yeah, or just dictate it.
Yeah, we can be, we're just authoritarians, okay? Whatever we say is what happens. It's the beauty. The beauty of fake world. So
Pixel Man, basketball.
So you guys know the drill. One team will be relocated
through a relocation game, just like we did with Washington and Dallas.
Yes, and the loser of that game will in fact be Thanos snapped. So the team that wins the game will just be relocated. The loser will be Thanos snapped and relegated to the dustbin of history.
So no matter what. So no matter what.
Yeah, it's going to be the bottom 2 teams in the vote will be playing in the game. So you guys know the rules. If you don't want your team to be at risk of being relocated,
man,
because the fans decided the bottom two, if you don't want your team to be relocated, you have to make the playoffs this year. If you miss 2 years consecutively, you get thrown into the pool to be voted on. So
and
make the playoffs, end all doubt. That's what you want.
And make sure we'll announce it right here, because I'm sure that we're going to have a lot of people viewing this video and not maybe necessarily the rest of the season. Make sure that you mark your freaking calendars for when this season ends, because when we ask you to vote for what team needs to be relocated from the teams that didn't make the playoffs, if I'm looking at the Founders, they haven't made the playoffs in 3 years. If they don't make the playoffs again, they could be on the bubble again to be removed. So, guys, if there's any of your teams, if you're afraid of your team not making the playoffs, could be possibly relocated, make sure you're coming by here. Well, you gotta be an advocate for your guys.
Well, you guys know the teams that are on the list, and it resets every year. So after year 2, the list resets. So even a team like Kentucky, if Kentucky misses the postseason, they can be relocated or dissolved. So, you know, it's a very harsh reality. But you guys see the list there. Teams that missed the playoffs last year, miss it again, now you're in trouble. So if you guys have been following the XBA Twitter feed, and I highly recommend that you do, that you follow us, you guys know that there are going to be 2 new XBA2 teams.
More content?
More content. More content.
Wow.
This is kind of like the G League Ignite team. So if you guys are familiar with that, you know that the Ignite team accepts a handful of players that are willing to skip going to college, and they can start earning a paycheck above the table. So the fact that they're going to go to the G League, work in a professional environment, play with other professionals, get professional coaching, that's an option. That's an option. Before we fill out the rosters this offseason, we gotta know which of the incoming prospects want to go pro versus play college. You guys got a little bit of time to think about it, but not much. So let us know if you guys want a prospect, if you want to go play for the pros. And if you do play for the pros, you're probably going to be one of the, we got 12 spots open, you're going to be one of the 20 to 25 best incoming players. You're going to be a first rounder, so keep that in mind.
This is for all year 4 prospects. So if you had an intention of playing at the college level for the XBA tournament, you and your prospect could choose to join one of these 2 high school type of teams. So it's up to you, but you guys have to let us know. I have a document and a Google Sheets that tells me exactly what and who your year 4 prospect is going to be. So no trying to trick me, because I'm going to know who's who, and I'm going to know exactly if you're legitimate or not.
Well, you basically have to be, like I said, one of the 25 best players to play on the XBA2 High Risers or the XBA2 Sizzle. The High Risers and the Sizzle. Now,
I do like that.
The High Risers are stationed in New York. The Sizzle play in LA. So if you are a prospect from the East Coast, let's say east of the Mississippi, you're probably going to be assigned to play for the High Risers. If you're west of the Mississippi, probably going to be assigned to play for the Sizzle. And the remainder of the rosters on both of those teams will be filled out with veterans from XBA2 that basically have no hope of ever making the XBA again. So we're looking at you, Corey Brewer and Amir Johnson and Chandler Parsons. So again, if you guys do decide to go this route, you will not be playing college basketball. And I know that's kind of an interesting, fun series for you, a lot of you guys, part of the series. If you do play for the XBA2 team, you guys will get to see them play against pros, some XBA2 guys. So you have that option available. And obviously we would be showing a handful of those games throughout the course of the season.
We haven't had a whole lot of coaching movement in the XBA since we've started our year 1. We wanted to kind of give these guys a little bit of a longer leash to see what was going down, how these guys were going to perform with their teams, and it just has not worked with Eric Spoelstra in Miami. Their offense has not taken the leap. They've got guys that are really struggling, guys that we know who are offensive-minded guards, offensive-minded players. Jason Tatum, you've got Kozlov, you've got Phoenix Wah.
Yeah, Vucevic, who can shoot threes all day at center.
And Spoelstra hasn't gotten it done. So, officially, Miami is an open job for head coach.
Would the Fly Guys really kick out James Borrego after Borrego just got them to the #1 seed? I feel like they might. If LeBron is unhappy, I feel like he might flex his muscle and kick Borrego out. What do you think? Yes.
And look at this. Miami signs Justin Chris, head coach from Kansas, led his team all the way to the Final Four. Most people think that it was mostly the team that was the reason why Justin Chris was being carried to that point. People citing inside Kansas were citing that maybe Chris was kind of just a coach that didn't really have a whole lot of X's and O's. He was just kind of a rah-rah type of guy. But maybe this is what Miami needs, and this is why they wanted to go with a guy like this. He focuses heavily on defense. He can grow and teach some players, and that's what this Miami Night Owls team feels like they need with all the young and the youth that they're getting on this team. Maybe he can kind of guide and grow them.
SoCal Supernovas had Jason Kidd as their assistant coach, while David Fizdale was the head coach. And I think somebody walked into the owner's office, maybe an intern or something, and said, "Hey, do you guys know you have Jason Kidd as the assistant coach and Fizdale as the head coach?" And the owner said, "Wait, what?" And then they decided to promote Kidd to head coach. I think this could work out for SoCal. They have a very good starting five, so it seems to me like this is a smart decision.
The Washington Founders have made another big-time splash, but this time going out and grabbing Adesik Sabchak, a EuroLeague champion head coach from year #1. Obviously, this is Jedrej Sabchak's father. Was formerly taken as the #1 overall player in Atlanta. Sabchak has come under some scrutiny at UCLA, talking about coercing Marcel McFly, Demetrius Frazier. There's been some weird things going on with Sabchak. He's definitely been in the spotlight as far as drama goes on XBA Twitter. I know for certain, though, with that #1 selection, Sabchak was more than willing to go out here and sign himself up to the Washington Founders. And they need a spark. They need a spark. As far as head coaching goes, they made a splash. I don't know if it's good for PR, but they also made a big splash with that #1 selection. So we'll see what Sabchak wants to do with that #1 selection. Maybe it's CJ Thomas. Maybe he likes to go get Demetrius Frazier.
What's the deal with that salary, though?
Oh my God. I didn't notice that until now. Oh my God. 4 years at 666. Is he the devil? Is Sabchak the devil?
Yes. The Las Vegas Jacks will be hiring Eric Spoelstra. So you are down on Spoelstra. But
I hate
he's been a very
Spoelstra.
Successful NBA coach.
NBA coach. NBA coach. XBA coach, his offense literally is garbage in simulation. So we know, we've seen it. We've seen it. We can say Spoelstra's a great coach in real life. We don't have to bash him there. We can bash the Pixel Man version. He's been terrible. Expect the Jacks to miss the playoffs.
So guys, you voted. You guys remember this? About 2 months ago, you voted on the incoming European free agents, okay? And the winners are, as you see on the screen, Rasko Todorovic of Montenegro. So you guys voted on the name and his position. His NBA comp is Peja Stojakovic. All right. Next up is Jurgis Levanauskas, who is a shooting guard from Lithuania. 78 overall. He's a big three-point shooter. And finally, we have Jean-Philippe Mbassi out of Cameroon and France. He is a big-time defensive guy. He's going to primarily play power forward, but he can obviously shift to center. So let's check him out here, guys. What do you think about these guys? What do you think about Rasko, just looking at him here?
Well, Rasko is a big talent coming over from the EuroLeague.
Yeah.
And he's going to be one of those guys. He's got swag with him, too. He's number 99. He loves that double-digit number. Everybody loves 99. But he is actually a three-ball shooter. We got to hit some more three balls here.
Come on.
Got to get our user timing down here right now. But Yeah, he's a good player. He can do a little bit of everything. He's a big guy. You can see him here. He's going to be able to back you down. He's got some fadeaway game in there.
No, I suck.
You're not doing him justice here, but he can do everything. He can do everything. He's very, very well balanced, and that's kind of the scouting report for Roscoe. A lot of teams are going to be vying for his services. He's about an 84 overall player right now, so he's actually the best overall rated prospect in the free agent list.
Hey, I got agreed. Yeah. Okay, you're taking the reins over this time.
Yeah.
Because you got to hit some 3 balls with this dude.
I want Levanowskis, man. He's, you know what? He's going to be a pretty solid player, man. Just watching him, when you were making his look here, I think the Arrows might try to go after a guy like this. I think he's got some, well, he doesn't have any hot zones here. We'll fix that. But pretty interesting little prospect there. I'm actually interested in going after a guy like this. It's funny, though, with 2K. If I hold this down, he's probably gonna make that.
Oh,
I don't know why what that is there, but you actually hold that down, he makes more than just trying to perfect time it.
Yeah, no, he's a veteran. He's a bit older. I mean, I say that relatively. He's 28. Okay, but he's put in. You know, when you start playing in Europe, you start getting there when you're like 16. So he's been playing professionally in Lithuania and in other places for a decade. So he got plenty of experience. You know, Roscoe is a bit younger at 26. But, you know, we kind of know what Jurgis is, all right? He's not going to play great defense. He's going to try to run around on the court and find an open spot and drain a big 3.
Yep, he's going to be this kind of guy right here. Oh, shoot. He's going to be this kind of guy right here.
You better make it. Yo! End it. Stop it. Oh. Okay.
A player that I actually helped create. I didn't help create the first 2, but Mbasi. This is a player that is, like you mentioned before, is very defensive based. So, and he's actually nicknamed Big Cat.
Oh, Big Cat.
Yep, Mbasi, Big Cat. He's going to be a pretty solid player himself, but again, just more defensive minded. Can make that flashy dunk, but for me, I'm personally more loving Levanowskis because I think he would be a guy that would be within our range to go get. Teams, non-playoff teams, probably going to get the services. That's a nice shot.
Can he actually shoot?
Maybe. But he's got some game. Mbasi's got some game. I would think that, you know, probably a team that needs a lot of help on the defensive side is going to go after a guy like this. Not so much with the jump shots. Maybe he can back somebody down a little bit. We'll see his post moves here. If you hold that left trigger, yeah, then just shoot. Yeah, nice little spin move there.
No defense.
No defense, but wide open shots. But yeah, it's going to be a pretty solid player.
We got to see him play D, though.
So perhaps the best and the most fun part about the offseason in the XBA is the free agent talk. Except, hey, year 1, very light. Year 2, kind of light. Year 3 is loaded, guys. We got European prospects in here. We got a whole different slew of rules that we're going to talk about here and talk about the Wheel of Destiny and how is this whole thing going to work, because there is a lot of talent that's in this free agent pool. How do you put this all together? How do you make it work?
The reason we set it up this way, we had the first 3 years, we kind of wanted that core group of guys. We wanted you guys to get used to watching the similar players on the same team, creating a narrative, guys getting used to the rosters. I think the first year we had the top 2 free agents were Chris Silva and Chris Clemens. Okay, so we've come a long way. Last year was a little bit different.
Yeah.
This year is the first full-on free agency period. Guys that were not drafted with the top 2 selections in the opening fantasy draft were signed to 3-year contracts. And guess what? Their 3 years is up. So here we are. This is the first time we've ever had to do a mass free agency. And I saved this for you guys because I don't want to start throwing stuff at you guys before it becomes relevant. Okay, but this is the way that we determine who resigns and who walks and decides to test free agency.
Yes, because we have to give the Pixel Man a voice. We got to give him the opportunity to say, I either want to stay or I want to go. Because as you and me, as creators of this series, we can't go in and we can't like rationalize with you guys that are watching this and say, well, why didn't you sign this guy for that guy? Or why didn't you put this guy over here? You guys are cheesing it up. Well, we don't want that. We want this to be a very evened out, even playing field. That's why we're using randomness and chance in order to determine what the player wants to do if he wants to stay or go, or even where he's going to end up. So we're going to talk about that and how do we play that whole thing out? How does it all flesh out?
Yes, and we can't just totally simulate it because the XBA has a lot of arcane rules and constraints to ensure parity. So the players are making decisions within the confines that the XBA lays out to ensure parity, and I think that's what everybody wants, because I think it makes for a more fun league. Teams at the bottom are much closer than a lot of people realize. You can make huge leaps back and forth, and I don't feel like you can do that in the NBA unless you end up signing one of the 12 best players in the league. Right. So I think that's the reason, that's the whole reason the XBA even exists. So guys, let's talk about how we determine who resigns and who tests free agency. You guys see on the screen there, we have a list. This is a website I was using to randomize a list. So we have maybe, let's say your team, let's say St. Louis, I'll keep using St. Louis as an example. Maybe St. Louis has 10 players who are ready to walk, okay?
No!
St. Louis will get to keep 5 of them. 5 will decide to walk. So we have the list on the screen. Once I hit the button, the website will reorder the list at random. And the top 5 players on that list, after it has been reorganized, will walk and test free agency. If you have an odd number of players, we go with the low end of half. If you have 11, the 5 players walk and the 6 remain. So overall, roughly 50% of the players who are eligible to leave will end up leaving. And we will have a giant list for you guys, a giant spreadsheet that you guys can all see after we're done here, who is going to stay and who's going to leave. If your player on the screen has an asterisk next to their name, that means they are rated as an 80 or above post progression. And this is where it gets a little interesting.
Yeah, so please try to stay with us, guys. We're going to actually talk about this very simplistically, but also try to get down to the nitty-gritty because it does matter.
And you guys will probably see how it works better after we're done. So if you guys are a little like, I didn't quite catch that, it'll all make sense, I think, in the end. If your player is rated an 80 or above and you lose them to free agency, you get a compensation bid through free agency. So let's say, I'll use St. Louis as an example.
Man, we're just the guinea pigs out here.
You have Mo Bamba and Josh Richardson who are eligible for free agency.
Yeah.
Now, you guys remember how the Wheel of Destiny works. The non-playoff teams get the first bite at the apple, right?
Yep.
They get to eat first.
Yep.
They get the chance at the top free agents
Which
first.
they should. They've missed the playoffs. They get a little extra nudge.
This is how we ensure parity throughout the league. St. Louis
Oh,
made
God.
the playoffs.
Oh, God.
So you currently are not eligible to pick in that first wave of free agency with the non-playoff teams, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We don't get that. We don't get that benefit. We made the playoffs.
So in a normal scenario, you would get to pick after the non-playoff teams get done picking their players.
Which Bamba would be gone and Richardson would be gone.
Correct.
Those are huge pieces of our team that are now gone.
Now, if after I click this button, one of the 2 leaves. So if Josh Richardson leaves, you get to jump up and pick with the non-playoff teams, okay?
Correct, because he's an 80-plus overall player.
Yes. So you get to basically get a makeup for the player that is ditching you.
Now, what happens if I lose 2 of them?
If you lose 2, if you lose Richardson and Bamba, as a playoff team, you get the 1 compensation pick at the top, and you get a makeup pick with the other playoff teams. So St. Louis, if they happen to lose 2, they can't just restock. They gotta wait until the other teams are done picking.
Which is very fair. So in review, a playoff team like the Arrows, we lose 2 80-plus overall players like Richardson and Bamba. Let's say that happens, which would suck, but if it happens, we get to throw our bid, throw our little pie piece right in there on the Wheel of Destiny with the non-playoff group for a chance to kind of recoup that loss. But if we lose another 80 overall, we have to go back within the playoff group. You lose 2, we have 2 chances total.
You'll lose 2 good players. You'll be able to pick up to make up 1, and your other pick will not be as good.
Right. Exactly. And that's gonna happen for all playoff teams, not just the Arrows. This could happen over the course of this whole free agency process. We have a lot of playoff teams who could lose some pretty good talent here too.
If you are a non-playoff team and you lose a player rated 80 or above, you get a compensation bid in the first round. Let's say maybe you're the Vancouver Vortex. If you lose nobody rated 80 or above, you still get a prime selection. If you lose one player, you get a compensation bid in the top round. So Vancouver would get 2 prime selections. If Vancouver loses a third player rated 80 or above, they get 2 prime selections and an extra pick at the back end. So you can max out at 2 prime selections as a non-playoff team.
And the reason, you guys, so that was a little confusing. I know, I get it, but that's the best way to ensure parity. That's the best way to ensure balance. And you got to think of it that non-playoff teams are guaranteed. Non-playoff teams are guaranteed because they're bad, right? They missed the playoffs, right? They're guaranteed a prime selection no matter what. So they could lose 2 guys, they could lose 0 guys. Doesn't matter. You're automatically guaranteed a slice of the pie on that Wheel of Destiny because you missed the playoffs.
So now that we explained all of this, we will run through and let the computer determine who is going to stay and who is going to go. And at the end of it, we will tally up all of the picks so you guys will have a visual and you guys can see what we're talking about in case you got a little bit lost there. It'll all make sense at the end. But if you understood it, congratulations. Okay, guys, let's get into this. We're going to figure out who is staying and leaving. I am recording this section separately, so Gold has unceremoniously left me by myself. We're going to get this one started, though, so you guys will see how this works. The Philadelphia Bruisers, you see their list there, and those will be the players that are going to leave. So Philly is going to keep Oubre and Favors. They do not lose any of those players. The asterisk means that they are rated 80 or higher. Let's see what Baltimore's going to do. They got Rose and Levert on the board, and Rose and Levert will stay and re-sign with Baltimore. Rose is still an 80 overall. Levert is an 81. So could have been a lot worse for Baltimore, but that's what happens. All right. Next team up, going to be the Nashville Tempo. I made a typo here. Bielitsa, after he was an 80 after progression, he's a 77. So the Tempo will lose Bielitsa, and those will be the 6 players leaving for Nashville. A lot of XBA2 action on this list for the Tempo, but they do keep Malik Beasley, so there's that. Could be a good thing or a bad thing. All right, BC Chicago. Mitchell Robinson is the top player, along with Kelly Olynyk, and looks like Olynyk is going to go to free agency. Mitchell Robinson will re-sign with Chicago. So we have not had an 80-plus player leave yet. So the free agent pool, we'll see if it gets any more talent here. Columbus, Montrezl Harrell, Derek White are both going to leave, but those are the top 2 players for Columbus, trying to keep them, and they're both going to go. So Columbus will get a compensatory pick with the non-playoff teams for losing Montrezl Harrell. You could get somebody better than Harrell. You could get somebody worse than Harrell. You might just re-sign Montrezl Harrell. I figure Columbus will be in the market for a center. Boston Pilgrims, Jarrett Allen on the board. And Allen will stay. They're going to lose Robertson, Noel, Dedmon, and Metu. That will be that for Boston. All right, the LA Leopards. No player rated 80 or higher here, but Josh Okogie will be testing free agency. Garrison Matthews, really the only piece that matters, I think, there that they were able to keep. Pittsburgh Paladins, Dinwiddie and Bridges, both on the docket. They will both stay. So Pittsburgh's going to keep both of those guys in their quest to get back to the XBA championship game. All right, St. Louis Arrows, Bamba Richardson. You got Gary Trent, Hernan Gomez, Valentine Rivers. So they got a lot of talent on this board. They're probably going to lose some of it, but we see here, it'll be Richardson and Valentine. So they're going to be able to keep Mo Bamba. Atlanta Olympians, top player on the board there, Wendell Carter Jr., and he will stay there. They're going to lose 4 players, Wendell Carter being that top guy. Miami Night Owls, Kleber and Hardaway are their top 2. And I think I made a mistake. There we go. Kleber is going to become a free agent. Should be Alize Johnson too instead of Amir Johnson. So Miami with a ton of players on the board there. Gallinari, Kennard, and Carmelo are going to be the top guys that the Fly guys are on track to lose. Let's see if they re-sign any of them. And it looks like Gallinari and Carmelo will be leaving. So not a great free agency deal there, but they do get a makeup pick with the top of the group there. And Mikal Bridges will be leaving for Vancouver. So Vancouver will receive 2 picks in the top part of free agency. The Jacks have Portis, DiVincenzo, Williams, Kuruc as the top guys, and they are going to lose Bobby Portis. The Jacks get an extra compensation slot there at the top of free agency. Whole lot of trash here for the City Slickers. Maybe outside of Hill and Birch and Korkmaz are probably the top players there, and they will lose Looney and Korkmaz. So, you know, could have been worse. Lose any sleep over that. All right, Whiteside, Hart, and Green for Kansas City. This one will be a big randomizer there, and it looks like it's going to be Hart and Whiteside. So Kansas City will get their 2 makeup picks at the top, and they get an extra one at the back end for losing 2 players rated 80 or above. So even though they're going to lose Hart and Whiteside, they should be able to make that up. Not as good as it could have been, though, for Kansas City. All right, SoCal. SoCal is kind of like the City Slickers. Not a lot of bench depth, as you see there on the screen. A lot of guys in the low 70s, and they are going to lose those top 4. So, you know, Crowder was probably the best player on that list. He's gone. All right, Tampa Bay Sting, no players in the 80 range, but you might want to keep Norman Powell, Osman, and Ibaka. And they will keep all of them. So free agency, very kind to the Tampa Bay Sting. They get one of those prime selections for missing the playoffs. The Riptide have Noel, Fournier, Dunn, and Bembry. So a little bit of talent there. They're going to lose Fournier and Bembry to free agency. So Honolulu still looking pretty good entering next year. A lot of players on the board for the Neon here. A lot of XBA2 action as well. Zach Collins, Warren, and McGee are going to be the guys that they want to keep. And they will lose Warren and McGee. So there you go. Neon, you know, at least Zach Collins is still there. Still looking good with CJ Kemmerly and company. Denver Summit. Top player Lonnie Walker. You got Prince, Bates, Diop. So they're going to lose Bates, Diop, and Prince to free agency. Torian Prince was a big piece for this team, but you know how it goes. They should be able to make that up. Terrence Davis, top player for Kentucky. They will lose Holiday, Wanamaker, Jackson, Zizic, and Tavares, who I'm pretty sure is going to be an XBA3 next year. So not going to lose any sleep over that either. All right, the New Orleans Neptunes. There you have Thomas Bryant, Patrick Beverly, Musa. Both of those guys, or all 3 of those guys, are in the high 70s, so you want to keep them if you can. They're going to lose Musa. Will be the top guy that they'll lose. They will be able to keep the other 2 guys, Beverly and Bryant. So there you go for New Orleans. Detroit Power have DeMarcus Cousins. His contract's up. Monte Morris, Thaddeus Young, Kid Gilchrist. A lot of depth here. We're going to find out who they lose. It'll be Keem, Young, Bazemore, and Kid Gilchrist. So probably couldn't go that much better for Detroit. All right, Montreal Gatiques, they got Murray and Knox. Kevin Knox rated an 80 overall, and they will lose Knox and Dejounte Murray. So Montreal will get 2 picks, 2 prime selections, and an extra in the first round of free agency. So they will be able to snag up 3 players, 2 makeups, and the extras. So not the end of the world, but it does give a team like Montreal a chance to kind of reshuffle the roster. All right, Alaska Chill, you got Jonathan Isaac, just made the list at an 80. Hartenstein is a 79, though. So they almost had 2 guys in that group, but they are going to lose Hartenstein, Lou Williams, Simons. So that's kind of tough. You know, they're going to keep Isaac, though, so it's not the end of the world. Houston Lawmen have 2 guys rated 80 or higher up for grabs. Malik Monk is an 80. He just snuck in there. And luckily for Houston, that will grant them an extra free agent selection. Extra prime free agent selection. Wisconsin Bandits, Covington an 81. Rozier, Brunson are up there, but not quite an 80, so we'll see what happens. They are going to lose Covington and Brunson, along with Dort. So, you know, Wisconsin will get the 2 picks. Jacksonville jump, our top player will be Otto Porter Jr. And Harry Giles is an 80, but it's going to be Otto Porter. So Jacksonville will get a compensation pick. We'll list all of it at the end for you guys to give you a visual. Bam Adebayo, Lonzo Ball, Vanderbilt, and Brown Jr. So a lot of talent on the board here for Phoenix to see if they can keep this crew together, and they're going to lose Lonzo Ball. Keeping Bam, though, I think is the big deal there. San Diego has Herter and Anunoby. Toombs, Spellman, a lot of big depth pieces for San Diego. Carter Williams as well. They are going to lose Anunoby and Herter, so they will get the makeup selection at the top, one with the playoff teams. All right, California Dragons, no players 80 or higher here, but you got a couple of their contributing pieces like Bogdanovich. They will keep Connaughton, Giallo as well, and Pirtle. So, not too bad for California. I think they're going to be in the market for center, my guess. San Jose Cyborgs could lose quite a bit here. Adams, Van Vliet, Zaire Smith, Caldwell Pope. And they are going to lose Van Vliet and Steven Adams. So it's going to be tough for San Jose. They lose some talent here, but they will be picking with the non-playoff teams at the beginning. All right, we're almost done here. We are moving along here. Seattle Martians. Jeremy Lamb is an 80 overall, so he gets that bonus. Let's see if Seattle will keep him, and they will. So Seattle just keeps their 1 pick by virtue of missing the playoffs. And Eric Gordon could have been worse. El Paso Peppers, Gordon Hayward on the list here, along with Aminu and Moutier. They're going to keep Aminu and Moutier, and they will lose Gordon Hayward. So that was the loss for El Paso that they maybe didn't want, but they will be picking with the non-playoff teams. All right, last team here, Washington Founders, Rashawn Holmes up for his contract. We'll see what happens when we randomize this baby here. Washington Founders. All right, they're going to keep Rashawn Holmes. So that's going to do it for the free agency, guys.
In review, right, Roscoe Todorovic is the best guy, right? He's an 84. Got Fred Van Vliet there for San Jose. That's a big loss for San Jose. Maybe they could get him back. We'll find out. But hey, Arrows, we used them as an example. Yes, they did. They ended up losing Josh Richardson. I mean, luckily we were able to keep Mo Bamba, though. Let's see, another team that kind of caught my eye here was Kansas City. Kansas City loses 2 players. They lose Hassan Whiteside and they lose Josh Hart. So KC, already a good team, losing 2 really good caliber players there, 2 key cogs in their roster. They get some selections there. They get some more chances on that Wheel of Destiny.
Well, keep in mind, the interesting thing about Kansas City and Montreal. Montreal lost 2 players. Kevin Knox.
Yeah,
you know.
And Dejounte Murray.
I read that Kevin Knox is like the most inefficient player in basketball last year. He was so bad. But for our sake, he's an 80 overall. So Montreal, Kansas City has a chance, really, to remake the look of their team. They get 2 prime selections. They get an extra pick at the back end with the playoff teams as well. We've got 3 players who might be pretty decent. I mean, Kansas City, if you're going to lose Hart and Whiteside, you know, like theoretically, maybe you get Harrell and Portis or something.
Yeah.
So like you could make this thing work. It's not the end of the world for Kansas City losing 2 players that are that good. It's not the end of the world for Montreal, you know, either.
You could end up getting them all back too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you could as well. So a team like San Jose, I mean, they're going to be short Van Vliet and Steven Adams.
They would have to really try. They'd have to hope for getting a guy like Lonzo Ball. They'd have to hope for trying to get a guy like maybe Malik Monk. Like he can play point. He can play point guard as well. But yeah, you're really losing. You're wanting. Ideally, it's a shot in the dark. They're hoping they get Van Vliet back, but you know they gotta hope to try to get one of those point guards.
Yeah, so you guys see on the screen there, the teams that get 2 prime selections would be Montreal, Kansas City, Vancouver, Wisconsin, Houston, Miami. They are going to be able to select twice in that first group.
Because they missed the playoffs, they're guaranteed 1 pick, and then they also lost an 80+ overall, so they get 2 slices on the Wheel of Destiny.
Playoff teams that will be able to select one player in the first wave of free agency. As you can see, you guys can probably figure it out, will be San Jose, El Paso, St. Louis, Atlanta, Carolina, Columbus, Jacksonville, Phoenix, San Diego, Las Vegas.
So scrolling down here just a little bit, we see some of the players like Hartenstein, Donovich, Derek White. We got a lot of the European guys. I'm not even going to try to pronounce those names. You can do that. You made these dudes off of voting, right? That's how we did this, was European prospect voting. But very solid players, and you know it's going to be wild, man. It's going to be really wild. We got Seattle losing 2 guys, Eric Gordon, Mo Wagner. You've also got Denver losing a couple guys, Detroit. Yeah. It's gonna be pretty crazy. Some team identities are gonna definitely be a lot different after all this is said and done.
Yeah. So the fun thing about this, you guys see, there's a lot of mid-range players. So free agency is gonna last for a few rounds before we get done with it. The players in orange are basically the 80 and above. Players in the light blue are gonna be pieces that you can use. Players in yellow are going to be borderline XBA2 players. They're either going to be, you know, your 10th player on the XBA team, or maybe your best XBA2 player, depending on how your roster looks. And then players in the light green are definitely going to be playing XBA2 or possibly XBA3. So you guys see all the XBA3 players. They are going to be eligible to sign as well. So if you guys recognize your players, let me know, okay? Daniel Stenmark, Matthew Gardens.
Nate Worthington. I remember Nate Worthington. Charlie Crew.
Charlie Crew was the dunk champion. Eli Hepner is out there as well.
Where's Luke? So, where's Jack Component?
He is on the Ottawa Coalition. He was drafted by Boston.
I love this guy's marketing. I love his marketing of his player. He's always commenting.
He believes in them for sure. So all the XBA3 players have a chance to latch on to an XBA2 team. Some of them are just going to have to gut out another year in XBA3 before they get a little bit better. So you see on the top guys that were created, Brownie Baker and Oba Olawale. Those guys saw pretty big increases. They're now a 72 overall. Good for them. Good for them.
I know you're on that Brownie Baker train. I know you are.
I like Brownie Baker. And he could probably even play in the XBA. I bet you he probably could. So what do you think, what would like St. Louis's strategy be? You get one prime pick. You get one prime selection.
Yep.
You're going to go for Roscoe probably? I mean, he's going to be the first player off the board.
We're definitely going to be wanting a guy like Roscoe Todorovic. We need a forward. Yes, we lost Josh Richardson. He was kind of like that wing. Could play guard, could play forward. But we need a forward. We need a forward for sure. I mean, Julius Randle's solid, but he's Julius Randle. We need another guy back there. I think Roscoe would be huge. He's a three-ball hitter too. He's gonna be a coveted free agent. But if we had to settle, I use that word lightly, I'd probably be looking at point guard. We've had a little bit of a hole there at point guard for a couple seasons. We've been testing Austin Rivers out. We've been testing Cassius Winston. We've got Buddy Mayer Jr.
And St. Louis could really use Van Vliet or Murray.
Yeah.
I'm looking at like teams that lose a big man like Atlanta, Columbus. I think they're solely going to be looking at getting a center. Like Kansas City's got 2 bites at the apple. Kansas City's going to throw in hard for one of those centers. They might even get Hassan Whiteside again. That's a possibility there as well. But if you're a team like Houston or Miami or Montreal or somebody, this is an opportunity for you to remake your roster, really.
Miami needs offense.
You can rearrange the deck chairs here.
I think overall it's going to be a really fun free agent period, something totally different, something new that we're implementing here. And again, just for parity, for balance, for competitive balance, the reason the XBA exists is for something like this. So we want to take ourselves out of it. We want to take the human element out of it. We want to be able to get the randomizing and the randomization and the chance, the risk involved back into this, into the decision making. So overall, I think it's gonna be a really, really fun thing. And when that wheel starts spinning, everybody's gonna be on the edge of their seats.
Oh yeah. And I'm thinking too, some teams that maybe they didn't lose a guy, but they still get a good selection, like the California Dragons or the New York City Slickers. Like they're gonna pounce on one of these centers. I can tell. Like, can you imagine like Hassan Whiteside, Wendell Carter, New York, California?
Yep.
They would be huge for those teams. So there's going to be some luck involved here, guys. You guys are going to have to hang on the edge of your seats here and see if you can make it happen.
There's going to be a lot of happy people, and there's going to be a lot of disappointed people. That much I can promise you. Now it's time to talk about trade talk, and there are some players that will be considered to be moved on from their current XBA team.
This is the first time we've ever done this off-season trade.
It's true. It's true. The only time that we've ever really done any trade is during XBA trade day in the regular season.
Yeah, so keep in mind that we will discuss these players and their contract situations. We will do this like we did, comparable to how we did it at the trade deadline last year. You guys are going to see the offers. They're going to be blind offers. You guys will know their position, age, and overall. This is post-progression. You'll vote on which trade you want to go with. If you do not like any of the trade offers, you think the team should stay put, we have a fourth option on the board that says, nah, brah. None of the above. For the none of the above section, it will have to break 30%. So a simple majority will not do of 26%. You gotta hit a 30%. So, with that out of the way, our first trade involves the St. Louis Arrows. And this is not a blind trade. This one is just straight up, if you guys want it to happen or you don't, and it involves Donovan Mitchell.
Yes, so the big thing as a St. Louis Arrows GM, me, as the St. Louis Arrows GM, we've had a lot of success. We've had a nice little run, but things are starting to come to roost. Our late round draft picks, our young guys, Buddy Mayer Jr., EJ Sanders, some of our other guys through free agency, through trades, Denzel Valentine, you know the deal, you know the roster by now. Here's the dealio. Donovan Mitchell has 2 more seasons on his contract. 2 more years. Our talent that's left on the team, we've lost Richardson. We almost lost Bamba, but we got to keep him. I'm starting to see the writing on the wall here. Yes, you could keep Donovan Mitchell with the team. You could still try to win playoff games, try to get over that glass ceiling, get over that hump. But I'm looking at another opportunity here to move on from Mitchell and acquire some younger players that might not be getting a lot of time in Miami. Mainly Phoenix Wah, a nice little point guard, shooting guard, a young guy that we're going to have control over for quite a long time. Hachimura, a nice little forward that we're going to be able to play and mix and match because we are losing Josh Richardson, potentially. And then we're also acquiring the number 7 overall pick and Miami's free agent bid. All because, guys, this is a blockbuster move. This is, you see it all the time, these mega trades that happen with star players. We would jump to that number 7 pick from Miami and allow us an opportunity to really, again, kind of embrace the youth movement.
Yeah, now keep in mind the free agent pick. It could be as good as an 84 rated player, but it's not likely. Worst case scenario, you're looking at a 79 overall player. So there's some wiggle room there. There's some risk involved there. But you're talking about a player who's rated as a 90. So that's rarefied air.
Right. That's a lot to give up on my end.
You know, I mean, Hachimura doesn't have a huge future. I think he's got a future as a role player. So he's a nice addition. Why you feel like you want to take a chance on. Free agent bid might pan out, it might not, but you get the young guy as the number 7. So that is the trade if you guys think it should go through. If you think Miami, no, we didn't talk about the Miami end of this trade.
Yeah.
Miami's got a new coach.
Right.
They're trying to get a little more offense in the mix here.
Yep.
We're looking at a team with Kozlov, Donovan Mitchell, Tim Hardaway, Tatum, and Vooch.
That's a pretty good lineup. Plus, and now with that new head coach, they've got some movement with their offense now, where they didn't have that with Spoelstra. Donovan Mitchell to Miami compared with Tatum and Kozlov and Hardaway, like that's a starting 5 now in Miami, where they have had a lot of struggles with that offense.
And keep in mind, Miami has another free agent bid. So Miami has 2 free agent bids overall. They're not giving up their sole pick to St. Louis in this hypothetical trade. They will retain the one that they recently had. Losing Moxie Kleber gave them an extra bid, so keep that in mind.
And don't feel bad about voting no. If you don't like it, you don't think it's fair, then you'll vote no. It's a good move for both teams. I think it works, but it's up to you guys now to decide.
Okay, our second trade on the block. The Montreal Gatiques are considering a trade for Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine is an 85 overall shooting guard, and he is in the final year of his contract. Now, keep in mind, a team like Montreal is not necessarily punting on the season. They're looking to get a good return for Zach LaVine. You know, they had a tough year last year. They're on track to lose Murray and Kevin Knox, so they're going to get 2 very good picks. They're going to get an extra free agent pick. Maybe looking to trade LaVine. The team just didn't do anything well last year. They're extremely disappointing. Might be something wrong with the roster construction there. So this is an opportunity for Montreal to really retool the roster. And so think of it like they're trading LaVine in the last year of his contract. It's not a punt. It's not a punt for Montreal. They are looking, as you see on the list here, they are getting a lot of good stuff in return, and they can make a lot of hay with that. So if you guys think Montreal should make one of these trades, vote for the one you like. If not, 30% of you guys say Montreal, stay put, then that will option will.
Next up, we've got Houston trading their star center, Clint Capella. This is a guy that's only got 1 more season left on the contract, and it's almost like Houston, you know, they've made, what, 1 playoff run? And, you know, this team is picking number 8 right now. So they're probably looking at, you know, we could probably draft a big man here if we get rid of Capella. We could fill some holes in with our team. And there's some options there for you guys to vote on. And, you know, they're getting a little bit younger. They're acquiring some draft capital as well. So Houston kind of also sees the writing on the wall here as they're trying to avoid losing Capella for nothing to go into free agency next season. So they're trying to move on, possibly trade him to, I'm not going to spoil it of who's on the list here, but, you know, just a willing suitor. Could potentially be a playoff team in the mix here too. So
keep in mind, I know that the free agent bid, the worst case that they're going to be is a 79 overall who is young and with some upside. That's the worst case scenario with this free agent pick. Your best case scenario is a guy who is an 84 overall who doesn't have a ton of upside, but could obviously be a very good starter for you. So where you land on the Wheel of Destiny is up to chance, but those free agent bids are a valuable piece.
Next up, we got Vancouver, and this is a big one. So we talked about Donovan Mitchell being moved, but we know that Dame Lillard, and most people might even take Lillard over Mitchell. And sure, you know, I mean, I don't think that's too much of a hot take. It depends on where you stand and what you like with your players. But Lillard is the best player that is about to get moved this offseason. He's the best player. We could go over the Malik Jones trade, but I'm still saying Dame Lillard is the best player to get moved on from in this offseason. We got the trades listed below. Obviously, the teams that want to acquire a player like Dame Lillard are either trying to change their culture or they're in the playoffs already. They're trying to make a big splash, trying to make a big push, and get to the elite level. But it's going to cost a pretty penny. You're not just going to get a player like Dame Lillard for nothing. So you got to come up with the bags of cash and a lot of talent, maybe a lot of picks to give up as well.
Yeah, you know, Vancouver's roster situation, their bench is not very strong. Do not have a ton of assets, really. I mean, they drafted LaMarcus Aldridge second, and at his age, they were kind of in a win-now mode. However, they have not made the postseason. So Lillard has 2 years remaining on his deal. Vancouver's got an option here. They can go really young. They can, with option 2, they can go fairly young, but there's a bigger chip there in option number 2. Option number 3, you get a couple nice pieces, but you also get, again, a guy who might be a replacement to the point where Vancouver is not tanking or punting. Vancouver, I think, in this trade, they want to remain competitive, but they got to retool the roster a little bit. I think, keep that in mind. If Vancouver trades Lillard, by the time these trades are executed, if they happen to be executed, you will see Vancouver will try to remain competitive here. For sure.
All right, and then the final one, the one that you've probably been all waiting for to hear what the options are on the table. It's the Malik Jones trade. As you guys know, they've been following the XBA Twitter talk. Malik wants out. He wants out of Philly. He doesn't want to be there anymore. He's tired of carrying the team, so to speak, and he's
so ridiculous.
I just like, dude, you're the star. You're the star. Every team in the XBA has to have a star that's going to carry the roster.
Okay. Philly missed the playoffs because Derek Favors got injured in the second week of the season with a season-ending injury, and they had no great power forward options. They missed the playoffs by like 4 games. And then he wants to tell me, after making the playoffs last year in his rookie season, he wants to go out there and say he's sick of the whole project. And I'm like, dude, Philly is in a fine spot.
They're in a pretty decent spot.
So,
but
whatever.
He wants out.
He wants to be a nuisance.
That's what we're gonna call it. So he wants out. He wants gone, and the teams are not gonna be revealed. So you've got 3 options here, not gonna be revealed. I know that there was a poll out there that Malik Jones had put out on Twitter, but
we got 3 teams.
We got 3 teams here. So Malik doesn't call the shots, unfortunately. So Philly holds all the rights. They have the opportunity to trade him, and there are your options below. So
now keep in mind, Malik is a 90 overall. He is increasing his value. His potential is becoming realized. So you guys gotta keep that in mind, that Malik is on the rise. He is a 90 overall in his 3rd season. So this is a huge piece that you're gonna get. I mean, you could argue more valuable than somebody like a Damian Lillard, although I think the value in this trade is about the same. But just keep that in mind. Malik is about to take over the XBA, I feel like. He's definitely going to become like a top 10 player.
He's on the ascendance. With post-progression, he's going to be even better. So yeah, you're going to, again, kind of like the Lillard trade, you're going to have to give up a pretty penny. Just kind of like Donovan Mitchell, too. It's not going to be easy to acquire a guy like this.
Yeah. So you see the options there. You're either going to take picks as wild cards. You're either going to take the big fish in the pond here, the option number 2 with some lesser wild card value, or you're going to take the 3rd option, which is volume. So there's 3 ways you can go here for Philly. You do not have the option, however, to decline this trade because Malik Jones is boycotting Philly, and Philly basically has no other choice than to trade him at this point.
Right, he's being a cancer right now.
Yes, locker room cancer. You guys know how those things go. So those are the big offseason trades, and I know in real life you might wait until after free agency or after the draft, but we got to get these trades in one of these videos. So we will be executing these trades prior to the draft once we get the results coming in. So
which is also good, because then you're going to know on draft day, or draft night, I should say, draft night, you're going to know what positions teams need.
Right.
After everything that's gone down, obviously picks are being included here too, so you're going to know, and even after free agency, because free agency has to happen here too, you're going to know what teams need. And this is a good spot to complete these offseason trades, is right before free agent period begins and right before the draft begins. So yeah, let us know, guys. You have a Google form to fill this out to vote, and there are your options, all trades listed there. Make sure you let your voice be known. And then that's gonna be it for our video tonight.
Yeah, this is was a lot to cover. Got a little bit complicated, but you know, it's fine. It's the offseason. There's a lot to cover nowadays. It was fun.
All right, guys, that's gonna be it. So leave a like if you like this thing. We will see you for draft night. Yeah, draft night. So be there or be square. We'll see you in the next one. As always, thanks for watching, and peace.